Everybody, we are here with the talented Dara Taylor, and she is the person responsible for the score for the brand new thriller coming from Sony Pictures Entertainment called The Invitation. And that's coming out August 26th, exclusively in theaters. Dara, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks.
Um, okay, so can you give us a quick spoiler-free summary of The Invitation?
Basically a woman who's recently experienced some loss in her family does this kind of like 23andMe type DNA testing um uh site, and she finds a long lost cousin. And she meets up with him, and everything seems great. And he said, "Actually, there's this family wedding in the English countryside. You should come. It'll be great." So she goes.
As one does
Yes, and,
with a random relative.
yeah. Things seem great at first. She meets a guy, and everything seems fantastic until chaos ensues where they
Until
realize.
it isn't.
I think the phrase is a gothic conspiracy is afoot. Um,
Ah, one loves gothic and conspiracies. Oh,
yes.
so yeah, how did you get attached to this project?
Yeah. So I did the old-fashioned thing. I sent in a reel through
Wow.
through my agent, and I had a meeting with Jess. I had a great meeting with Jess Thompson, the director, um, and we kind of discussed where we felt or how we felt the music should interact in the story and what the tone would be, and just kind of both how we felt when we watched it, or sorry, read it at that point.
Right.
um, and uh, and how we thought music could help the storytelling.
Mhm. And this is a very female-driven thriller, and created thriller. And what is the sound palette like for the score?
Yeah, so it's got a bunch of stuff in there. We've got some sort of gothic orchestra, even though there's always some added strangeness to make it feel not so traditional. And then there's a very prevalent is a sound of female voices, and that was something both Jess and I were really keen to explore, um, as they kind of serve as this hypnotizing siren song throughout the score and the film. And then there's romance elements in there as well. So we have some sweet acoustic guitars, and it's just a way to combine this kind of genre bending thriller into one, both sonically and visually.
Mhm. The process of creating a score is so fascinating to me because if you do it right, nobody notices.
I
You
know.
know, and what is the process like? You mentioned having initial meetings with the director, Jessica Thompson, but w- like what how does it start from the first meeting to getting familiar with the material to final score?
Yeah, well, for this project, thankfully I was still brought on before production started, and that was for multiple reasons. They needed someone to do an arrangement of the flower duet on a cello, which is something that happens in the film. Um,
One of my favorites, by the way. One of my
yeah.
favorites.
Um, but yeah, so during production, or while they were filming, I did kind of a 12-minute suite of ideas. And, some of those ideas ended up in the final, some of them did not, but it was just kind of a vomit draft, as you will, uh, of ideas and tones and effects and colors and all of that, to send to Jess. And that was actually something she had requested to kind of let it permeate and percolate
Mhm.
um, during the filming process. And then once they were done and we had some cuts, then we talked more specifically about um, what should go where, and when to hold them, when to fold them, kind of a way. When are we ahead of Evie? When are we with Evie? As far as you know, trickling in the conspiracy
Mm,
uh, and the horror elements.
mhm. You what was it like working with Jessica Thompson? Was it like hand in glove, just, you know?
It felt really good. I told I told Jojo Villanueva, who's the music exec over at Sony Screen Gems. It's like, yeah, that felt good, didn't it? And she's like, yeah, it did feel good. Uh,
Awesome.
no, I think we were very kind of kindred spirits when it came to how we both felt about the film um, and kind of Evie's journey and following that. And she always encouraged me to be weirder, and I said yes, please.
When do you ever get that direction? Oh
I
my
know, I
God.
loved it. I loved it. So yeah, my favorite question is, what does that sound? So I
It sounds like no,
yeah. So it was great to really feel that agency to just kind of you know make it uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you obviously just start composing and throwing around ideas on a keyboard and uh, things like that, or where do you start?
Yeah, keyboard. I mean, some of it is just, playing acoustic instruments wrongly. Um, or, you know, bowing things that should be plucked in, that whole thing. And then,
Yeah.
doing a lot of processing, running things through guitar amps. And, again, it's a very vocal forward score, and voice was my instrument originally. That's what I studied.
Hmm.
So I had a lot of fun just kind of like going in front of the mic and going, and any other weird
That had to
sounds
be
I could
so
make.
much fun.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was just a big sandbox.
How did you get into scoring for film? I mean, you mentioned that your original instrument was voice, but yeah, how did you get into this industry?
Yeah, music was always a really important part of my life growing up, and singing was what I had done. So that's just kind of what I assumed I would keep doing. But, um, and while I love voice and writing for it and working with it, performing was never where I felt like I should be. I'm like, what's the behind the scenes version of this? So yeah, it was something that I started to really get into in college, and then just kind of stubbornly held on. And I lived in New York for a while, and then came out to LA about 9 years ago. And I worked under a really great composer, Christopher Leonard, for several years, and really kind of got a lot of training, not just music making, but all of the other stuff that's involved in being a composer and being a composer for studio projects.
Right. That one thing that is interesting. I just was a part of a major Halloween and horror convention called Midsummer Scream, and we presented a panel of horror composers
Hmm.
at the end of like the Saturday session, I believe. And what was so interesting to us was it, you know, there was only one female and everyone was white.
Yeah.
Uh,
Was
and
it Holly
you're,
Amber Church?
huh?
Was it Holly Amber Church?
I don't
Okay.
remember specifically because I didn't have my hand in that particular
Yeah.
panel, but that's what somebody brought up to me, and and I was actually working on a diversity panel,
Mm,
uh, and so that's how the conversation went. But as a female person of color,
mhm.
like, was it difficult to break into this space, or were there any advantages or anything?
You know, um, all I really have, is my experience at this time. Um, so it's hard to compare it to other people's experiences earlier or later, or other people of different intersections. So I mean, I think in general this is a hard thing to break into.
Right.
um, so it's just trying to find the commonalities rather than the differences. I think help just forge relationships over time.
I love that answer. I love that answer. So, thank you so much for talking to me. And I mean, like, are are there any particular influences as far as composers or particular scores for you when you're working on a movie, or no?
I mean, I think there are, I've just, there are composers that I really love and pieces that I really love throughout the years. I mean, if we're going for non-film, like my first love was Sondheim.
Oh,
I think, yeah. Into the Woods is my favorite show ever.
oh, I
Uh,
love that show.
yeah.
It's a good one.
And I think perhaps the way he used melodic instruments rhythmically, whether it's voice or whatever it is. I think some of that kind of permeates still to this day, and just like finding the rhythm and things that aren't just the rhythm section, and kind of exploiting those.
I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, but I mean, I love a lot of the greats and a lot of the newer greats, and
Yeah, like I can't go a week without listening to Ladies Who Lunch, the Elaine Stritch. Oh, are you kidding me? I just when I
yeah.
need a pick me up. Um, so I guess my final question is so stupid. Do any of those guitars go to 11?
Go to 11. I mean, there are a lot of acoustic instruments, so I mean, acoustic instruments can only go to like 8 max, probably.
No, that was a bad Spinal Tap reference.
Oh gosh! Oh boy! Oh man, I'm going to get get beat up for missing that. Uh,
Don't even look at it. Don't even no, no. Okay. Well, listen, Dara, it's such a pleasure to talk to you, and please keep doing what you're doing. And the score was great, by the way.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed listening to it. And everyone, Dara Taylor's score can be heard in The Invitation that comes out August 26th, only in theaters. And Dara, thank you.
Thank you, Norman.
All right,
Appreciate
take
it.
care.